so much, Ate Celine, for taking time to talk with us today. But before everything else, let me introduce ourselves first. I am Hansi Argente, BSCE 1-1 from LTU Laguna, and here are my teammates.
I am Angelica Mayor Coleman, also BSCP 1-1. I'm Meryl Seco and from BSIE 1-1.
I'm Denver Kawagdan from BSCPE 1-1.
I am Keenan Daniel Ehouse de la Paz from BSCPE 1-1.
Okay, to start our interview, here are my first question. What is your name and your age?
Hi, my name is Celine Kasayuran and I am 18 years old.
Okay. Second po is, where are you from and what do you do in your native language?
I'm from Qatar. I grew up there and I am currently a student here in Mapua Malayan Colleges Laguna. And my main language is English.
Oh, thank you po. Next po is,
So for the next question po, how long have you been in the Philippines?
I've been in the Philippines for about almost 3 years now.
So for the fourth question po, how did your expectations before coming here compare with with what you actually experienced?
Mm-hmm. Before coming to the Philippines, honestly, I didn't really expect much knowing like the background of what the country is. But I did expect that the schools might be nice, that it might be a bit easier to get around, especially since in Qatar it was like a lot of Ubers, a lot of car rides. And knowing like there's commute here, I wouldn't have to spend so much. Compared to my actual experience in this country, um it's okay. Like it's not as bad. I think commute has a lot of things to improve, and I think the education system here is a bit flawed. But other than that, I didn't really have all that much expectations. So it's been all right.
well, next question is,
For the next question po, what part of Filipino culture surprised you most and how did it change your view?
I think the one thing that really shocked me about Filipino culture is like how family is such a strong thing here, especially like visiting my friends' houses and seeing that like distant relatives or like any kind of relative like living in the same house. And there was also a lot of like traffic here and not a lot of like sidewalks to really walk on. So it's not a very walkable place. Something that I also noticed is that deadlines and like punctuality is more of a suggestion than an actual thing to follow through on, which really shocked me. Just like seeing like firsthand and planning things and having people come late and everything. Um, Other than that, there's the food, there's the cuisine. It really like surprised me. That's it.
So for the next question po, in what ways did interacting with local people influence your stay here po?
Mm, I think initially, like I think locals in general in the Philippines are hospitable. They can communicate quite well, especially if like you talk to them in English. They can speak in broken English, but it's still quite comprehensible. They're very kind. They're very nice, especially when you approach them. I mean, of course, there's going to be people that are disrespectful, but again, in the Philippines, there's a lot of like heavy emphasis on respect towards other people. So it's not very common. So I think locals have been very quite nice.
um, follow-up question po. If you are going to compare your countries, like terms of hospitality, do you think which is better, Philippines or your country? Or how do you compare?
Wait, can you repeat the question? I think the internet like spazzed out.
Okay. For the follow-up question po, since you mentioned that Filipino people are hospitable? And how are you going to compare it to your country?
Mm, I think in Qatar, it's a very touristy place, especially with FIFA happening like a few years ago. But a lot of like in Qatar, there's a lot of expats, there's a lot of immigrants, and I think hospitability there is quite. It's okay. Like sometimes people will just be minding their own business. Sometimes people are going to be really nice to you. It's not like a whole thing. And sometimes when you approach people, they're going to like speak in English. They're going to communicate very well. But then there's always going to be people where they don't actually speak any language other than their own, which can cause like quite the barrier, especially when you're trying to go to other places, especially when you're asking questions, which is a big contrast to when I went to the Philippines, where if you just ask for directions, if you ask anyone any question, they can answer and they will answer.
Oh, next question, please.
So for the next question po, what challenges did you face adopting and how did you deal with them?
Mm, I think one of the biggest challenges is commute, I think. Because it's really traffic and the heat tends to be really bad, or sometimes it's like pouring really hard some days, depending on the time of the year. And the way that I dealt with it is just, sometimes you just have to be extra prepared. Sometimes you just have to bring an umbrella. Sometimes you just have to um, find a way to like efficiently commute. So sometimes you have to leave earlier. Sometimes there's like a specific time that you have to leave to avoid traffic. And another challenge that I face adapting here has got to be the culture of everything. Since it's the Philippines, of course, there's going to be like Filipino culture and like pop culture references. And that was one of the things that I had to adapt to, especially when I wanted to make friends, especially if I wanted to fit in. Because a lot of the times, the things that they reference, I don't really get. So sometimes I have to get home and like do my homework and basically understand why they find it funny or like what it actually means. That's about it.
May I ask, well, where are you right now here in the Philippines?
I'm actually in Laguna, Cabuyao.
Yeah, that's why it's reasonable why it's so strong. Even if it's done. Okay, next question, please.
Next question po. What local foods or traditions or activities do you love now?
Mm, I do enjoy street food a lot more now. Like kikiam, fishball, and like all those things that you find at the side of the road. I love those now. Especially like when I first got here, I was a bit apprehensive because I thought that it would be unclean or I would get sick. But then when I tried it, I was fine. And I do love street food. As for traditions, I love Christmas in the Philippines, especially if it's like a big family, because it's always like a spectacle. There's always like those, or like New Year's. Like sometimes you just see like a table, and there's like eggs, there's fruits, there's like circular objects, and there's like money stacked in rice. Like those traditions and those big family gatherings, it makes you feel very like warm inside. And I've grown to love it despite how noisy it gets. As for activities, I kind of like just going out now, like a lot more. Just going out with my friends and going wherever and just making it up as you go, because there's a lot of places to go here in the Philippines. There's a lot of things to just like figure out, which I've grown to really love.
So ito po, I have a follow-up question second. Since you said that your favorite or relations here in the Philippines is the Christmas period, then can you tell me, is Qatar celebrating Christmas or New Year?
Qatar is a Muslim country, so it's not as like nationalized as it is here in the Philippines, and it's really like funny seeing like Christmas decorations in September when Christmas is in December. And in Qatar, there's not a lot of like Christmas decorations. Like, sure, when you go to the Catholic church that, they have there, there's going to be like a big Christmas tree. But, overall, not a lot of like celebrations happening. Or if you were going to celebrate with your family, it's usually just like a dinner outside and then like a small get together in your like house. That's about it.
Okay.
Next.
I have follow-up. I have follow-up questions. May I ask if what is your opinion about those children and even adults who are mamas for like do you know that there are kids who are singing Christmas songs, say
Like
their
carols?
yeah, carols.
It is one of our cultures with
Yes, so what's your
Wait,
opinion?
I remember during Christmas here when I was with a few of my relatives, like some kids started like singing outside of like the door, and it was, I don't know, I think it's quite fun to just see like a bunch of kids like get together, sing Christmas carols and like ask for money as like exchange. I mean, sometimes you don't give them money, sometimes you do, but I think getting together and having like that togetherness during Christmas really just makes it all the more feel like the holiday spirits.
Um, in like to sing outside house and in some point po, they want to experience it. They want to experience it.
I think personally, I'm a bit too old for that. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed if someone were to like if my friends were to come up to me and tell me that, hey, let's do Christmas carols in front of someone's house, because I think that would be a good memory. But me personally, I wouldn't initiate it.
Okay. Just po.
For the next question po is, what is your biggest misconception about the Philippines?
My biggest misconception about the Philippines. Hmm. I think uh I guess when I first got to the Philippines, I thought that the education system would be a lot better, especially since, I grew up in Qatar, especially like in a Filipino school, and I thought that it would be like 1:1. I thought it would be the same. Turns out it wasn't. It's quite disorganized, it's quite messy, and sometimes it's not really good as what I've seen. And I think that was one of like the things that I misconceptualized about the Philippines, that everything is going to be organized, I guess.
For our next question, what do people from your country often misunderstand about the Philippines?
Mm, something that I've seen with a lot of the people that I knew in Qatar, it's that they like a lot of them talk down on Filipinos. A lot of them talk down on like, you know, them just being like nurses or like um healthcare workers and everything. And it's quite like prejudiced. It's very stigmatized. Or like just saying that, oh yeah, it's like it's a very dirty country. Like you shouldn't go there. Like the food that you're gonna eat, you're gonna get sick. That's something that I heard a lot. And I think people often misunderstand that the Philippines has a lot of really great people. There's a lot of ambitious people, a lot of people that are honestly quite passionate about everything else other than, what the common perception of Filipinos are. And I think there's also like this whole stigma, especially since when you look at slums, when you look at photos of the Philippines, it's unclean, it's unkempt. Like, sure, like a lot of places are polluted, a lot of places are unkempt. But some institutions, they do value sanitation, they value their cleanliness. And I think the generalization tends to feel very prejudiced. That's about it.
For the next question, have you ever witnessed an event that you didn't expect?
Have I ever? There's a lot of car crashes here. I think that's one of the things that I like. I didn't expect. I mean, I expected like roadside like accidents, but I didn't expect it to be so common. And I think there's also like violence and crime like being very rampant around. And I didn't. I mean, I knew that it happens. I didn't know that it happened so bad that I could like witness it. But there's also like sometimes there's more events that I didn't expect, like festivals happening for some reason. Like sometimes I'm just like walking or like in a car with my family, and suddenly people are throwing like powdered, like colored powders or whatever all over, or like they have like guns with like colored water. I think that's like one of the things that I didn't really expect. Like just there's a superfluous amount of fiestas happening all around.
And for our last question, how has staying in the Philippines changed your views on topics like work-life balance, community, or the way people connect with one another?
Staying in the Philippines, especially with work-life balance, I think it's quite obvious how people tend to overwork their employees here in the Philippines, most especially students. Like being up at such an early time and going home super late. I think that is just like ridiculous. And I think that it doesn't really give much way or much leeway for work-life balance. It's just full of work, and once you have time for your life, you're still doing work. Community, on the other hand, I think with the way that Filipinos tend to bond with each other, with the way that their culture is, I think community is very nice here. It's like sometimes you can just like bond with someone over like a joke that you see on Facebook, or just like the fact that having how do I say this? Just having a sense of community with people with like shared interests, with shared like culture. I can see it happening most especially with like family, with the way how family is so interconnected with each other, how it's a part of the culture. And it's really changed my views, especially with how close a family can be, basically. That's about it.
Last question. Do you experience any language barrier, and what can you say about the festival here in the Philippines?
Can you ask the question again?
Um, Last question was, did you experience any language barrier here in the Philippines, and what can you say about the festival here in the Philippines? Since you mentioned it earlier. Yes.
Mm, okay, I'll start with the language barrier. I think with the language barrier here, especially since I went here, not too well versed in Filipino, it was quite hard. Like sometimes I would just like I would switch from trying to speak Filipino and then just immediately just like code switching to English. But then there's also like the perception that people have of you when you speak English. Like they get really intimidated. It's like, whoa. They just have like a difference in like reaction or in the way that they talk to you. But I've been here almost 3 years. It's still a bit hard. I still find myself switching from language to language. At some point, I was kind of scared that I was gonna turn Konya. I think that's something that I'm so terrified of. And I mean, it's been a while since I've been here, so communicating has gotten a lot easier, especially when you commute because you have to interact with Filipinos on a daily basis. With festivals, however, I think it can be quite fun. I mean, sometimes festivals take place when it's like really hot, so you have to like be like really hydrated. Sometimes like it's a bit annoying, especially when you're not partaking in the festival, but then the entire street is like really loud. But if you were to partake in it yourself, if you were to see like, the costumes, if you were to see like the customs, it's quite fun. I do like seeing them.
Okay, that's all for our interview. Thank you so much
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye po.